It's summer during the second COVID lockdown. I'm 21 years old and I'm in this big, dangerous city. It's Manchester, England. And I've never been here before. I'm completely by myself. It's the evening time now, and basically, I'm walking down this street, very vibrant street, just walking down, and I hear this beautiful sound. The most beautiful sound I've heard in 2 years. It's live music. I couldn't believe it. So I'm walking down the street, I hear this, and I'm like following my ear, trying to find the right pub that's actually playing the music. And I see it's just jam packed. So I managed to get in because I'm by myself. And I was basically sitting at this table with a couple free seats. And these lads tried to come in. And the bouncer was like, oh no, sorry boys, sorry boys. And I saw this happening. So I was like, no, don't be silly. I was like, you guys can have this table. I'm just by myself. But they basically came over and they're like, oh, cheers, bro, cheers. And they were like, oh, no, just sit down. We'll get you a pint. We'll get you a pint. So basically, I'm sitting with these guys, and we basically just get chatting, listening to the live music as it's going on. And we ended up having a great night, and they were a good group of lads. I stayed out with them the whole night, and eventually went back to my hotel. But at the end of the night, basically, in true Manchester fashion, they had to end it off with an Oasis tune. And what was that Oasis tune? It was Half the World Away. I'm half the world away. And the entire pub was just singing it. Like, people have got their, their torches out doing this. And I don't blame them. First live music in a while. But I just felt this wave of positive emotion, and I knew that this was where I belonged. Half the world away, by myself. And I knew at that point, and by chatting with these lads and basically just forming a friendship on the spot, I will never be lonely again. I can just be who I truly am. It doesn't matter if I'm half the world away. And I don't have to be who my friends thought I was. I can now just be myself. So why should you embrace being alone as a musician? I want to just tell you the difference between before and after I left to go to Manchester. So if you don't know my story, I basically went to Manchester for university. I live in Scotland, so it truly is about half of the British Isle away, at least. And before I went to Manchester, I was very anxious. I was very lonely, depressed. I had a big group of friends, massive, but I felt like unconnected. I felt lonely. I was taking drugs to satisfy these bad parts of myself and just kind of fill in the hole. And when I came back from Manchester, I was less anxious, less lonely, less depressed. I felt more connected, even though I deleted social media and everything. I dropped all my contact with back home, basically. I'm now not taking drugs. So I got home like 6 months ago. So this is now, really. My social skills had gone straight through the roof because I was now not selfish. I was more present because I'd been meditating. I'd done journaling, personal work. I actually listen to people now instead of just waiting for my turn to speak. And you might not think this is you, but center in on yourself and you might be surprised. I'm now completely independent. I'd lived by myself in my own flat. I didn't have flatmates. It was just me. So I had to maintain that place, keep it clean, everything. Do my own cooking, ironing, cleaning, everything. I left a boy and I came back a man. And it had only been 2 years. If I'd stayed home, I would not have made this personal development. If I'd been with a whole group of people and left with them, I don't think I'd be this independent. I deleted social media, like I mentioned, and I felt more connected than ever with the people back home. When I came back, it meant something. I just turned up and people were like, whoa, you know what I mean? It's me, whatever. It's not like, oh, such a big occasion, but it's like, fuck, I've not heard from you in ages. Like, tell me everything. And it's the same for me, because they've not like been in consistent contact with me, we actually have something to talk about. We don't know what each other have been up to. It's a more good conversation, you know what I mean? Um, you can only really discover who you are when you completely minimize your input and all you're left with is you. It's not all these influencers on YouTube. It's not all your social circle. It's only you. And if you minimize your inputs, maximize your introspection, and look deep within yourself in those dark, horrible cupboards that you just don't like to open, you've locked them shut. You need to look in there, and this is where you find who you really are. And you may be surprised with some of the things you find in there. For instance, I found that I was completely afraid of intimacy with women. When I left to go to Manchester, I was still a virgin at 21. I lost my virginity at 22 in Manchester. And I'd finally gotten over that barrier of my deep-rooted fear of intimacy and stuff like that. It's very powerful when you actually look inside and you find these things, and then you can actually start to act towards them instead of just burying them with more shit and more shit. I had extreme avoidant attachment issues. And, it's not easy to live like that. So you have to put yourself out there, and being by yourself forces you to do that. This is based on what David Goggins said in Andrew Huberman's episode, and I just thought that was beautiful because I did this unknowingly. But he gives the example of opening those cupboards, and then you see all the spiders, the cobwebs, everything that you've just been pushing away. You don't want to clean that dark, horrible cupboard, that dingy basement. But this is the stuff you have to do if you want to improve. And how this relates to becoming a better musician is that you need to look inside. This will give you firepower for creativity. It will open your creativity because you're no longer afraid of yourself. And this is where all the best stuff comes from. It's from your heart. So once you open it up and you actually look in there, you give it some attention, some real attention, loving attention. You start to see the real stuff, who you are. And I now feel more comfortable as a musician. I'm way more comfortable with being outside my comfort zone. I played multiple open mics. I did all this. I met hundreds of musicians, had jams with them all, and just made so many new connections, new friendships, made mistakes, embarrassed myself, all this stuff. And it's just I'm now so much more powerful and dangerous as a musician. And I have less self-doubt. I'm more confident in my musical ability, and I don't really care anymore. I don't really care what people think of my ability. It's more about just enjoying the process, and that's what music's about. It's not about who's the furthest ahead and some virtuoso. It's about just enjoying it, man. And that comes across when you're playing. It makes recording easier. It makes playing with other people easier. All this stuff. I built friendships with other musicians. I discovered so many different playing styles that I wouldn't have discovered if I'd just stayed in Scotland with the musicians I was comfortable with, because I wouldn't have stepped out that comfort zone. I worked on myself. I discovered my true purpose, And it might seem silly when you look at my wall. I've got this. So basically, I was sitting journaling about it. And when I was in Manchester as well, I tried a bunch of different avenues for money. So if you know Iman Gadzi on YouTube, he preaches a lot of doing agency work. And basically I got lost in that. I bought his course for £1,000, and now I'm definitely not going to be going into the agency niche. So, but you learn from these mistakes. And I eventually joined Hamza's program, and there's a life coach in there, a good friend of mine, and I joined a couple of his calls going on about purpose, and I was like, oh, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? At the time, I was doing Twitter and everything, and I was journaling about it, writing down. And then I looked at my wall, and as you can see, there's a lot of instruments on my wall. And there's a piano behind me, monkey with headphones on, microphones. I had all this stuff. I was doing a sound engineering degree at uni. I'd done 4 years of that. Come on, mate. Like, your purpose is music. You're here to be a musician, to teach other people how to be a musician. This is you. This is why you're here. So it's so obvious, but you might like to take a look around your room and then just see, oh, yeah, of course. Like, I'm a musician. I've been doing this for decades. You know, I've been playing different instruments since I was 7 years old. That's over a decade. I'm 24 now, so it's nearly 2 decades I've been playing instruments for. I have to be a musician at this point, surely. But another thing is, like, I'm not self-conscious anymore. I'm just not. Like, I'm much healthier, I'm happier. So I would never have started this YouTube channel, which this is now my business, and I'm now becoming a music tutor. I have a bunch of music students. So I wouldn't have had the confidence to do this. I would never have taken the leap. I would have just got a job, just keep doing the bar work. Like, before I left for Manchester, I was working in a pub, and now I'm actually a professional musician. I'm teaching other people how to be musicians. I've already made money. I've got students. I never would have done this if I didn't embrace being alone. So that's all I've got for this video. Like I said, and as I always say, I've got this Discord down below. So if you want to join there and meet a community of like-minded musicians on the journey towards self-discovery, monetizing their passion, and just becoming a better musician in general, please join it down below. Thank you for watching as always, and take care. Hope you have a good day.